Hey guys, I'll explain this here in just a minute, but I was watching the Masters yesterday, and there was a commercial for one of the wounded veteran organizations, and there was a gentleman playing with a pro golfer who had bilateral amputation, lost his legs in an IED, and he said one of those things that it's kind of easy to pass over because it happens way too often. But he said, I didn't just lose my legs, I gained a perspective. I now know that I'm limitless. I have the ability to overcome anything. So what could be seen as kind of a major life upset, he said, this made me who I am. This is even better. And I got a lot of questions from you guys, private messages about the topic we started in terms of motivation. And I talked in terms of what Corey Probst used in our book, Motivation versus Commitment. I like to talk about intrinsic versus extrinsic goal setting. And that really popped into my mind. It locked in where whether being a soldier was an extrinsic goal of his, or forget even that for a second, just the fact that his life was completely turned around in a heartbeat, and now he had to look at a totally different view of life and say, you know what, I now have a better path toward understanding intrinsic goals. I now am a better person. I understand myself differently. And that's what I want to talk about in terms of any type of goal pursuit you have. Extrinsic goals are not bad. I, for example, was working very hard in a professional bodybuilding career that I segued into my actual company, and I worked on that for 20 or so years. And part of my identity was always as a physique athlete. How do you look? How are you placing? How are you progressing in your career in the sport? And that's very extrinsic, right? But more of the intrinsic part is, what drove me there? That kind of athleticism, that kind of lifestyle that I wanted to live started when I was a kid. And I grew up in a family that didn't really value health that much at all. And at some point I started playing sports as a young teenager, early adolescence, and then as I moved toward my professional bodybuilding career and even majoring in health sciences and so forth, it just became part of who I was. And so even in the last couple years, as I've overcome injuries, it's been my goal to regain some lean body mass and so forth, but not for those external goals I used to have, not just because of how I look or how I might compete. It's just how I want to coast through the rest of my life. So interestingly, I mentioned that as I went out to do some training with Tyler Mayer in Phoenix last December up into March, I had a 3-month window there where we did some in-body testing, some body comp stuff, and I was able in those 3 months to regain 5 pounds of lean body mass and lose 5 pounds of body fat. It was an equal trade. And that's very much part of that extrinsic nature, those external goals that I had set for a deeper intrinsic reason. And lo and behold, here at Sky Zone, a trampoline park with my daughter, I ended up tearing some cartilage again in my knee. This is a knee I've had issues with. I had my first surgery 30 years ago. And probably once or twice a year, I end up really bruising it internally, tearing it a little bit more. And it's just horrifically painful. I can't tell you how much when your joint capsule gets this much swelling in this much space, how painful that can be. But I've learned that a couple days of icing around the clock and that kind of thing, as soon as you get that swelling down, the pain immediately goes down. The structural damage is still there, but it's been my goal just to kind of limp through it and say, well, I'll do it another time. I got through this one, so now I'll be fine. So even now, when I'm on this upswing with some extrinsic goals, here I am with another setback, and I might not be able to be in the squat rack or to deadlift in the next month or so, maybe a couple weeks at least. And so that's a real downer, right? But intrinsically, I know this is just one more little step. There are going to be all kinds of bumps in life, and I can just delay this. I'll have a month or two of kind of rehab-ish type training, and then I'll be back on track for my goal. Does not devastate me. At least that's what I'm trying to talk myself through. That's what having a good intrinsic goal can do. You can remind yourself of it, but those extrinsic goals are always there. They're useful. My advice would just be make sure you understand that you have to be building something internally as you push through those extrinsic goals. So to to segue into something even more important is that my wife and I have been working with Soldier Dogs for Independence for a couple years now, and they are a group here in Evansville. You guys know that 22 veterans a day commit suicide, and a guy, Michael Ballantine, here in Evansville created Soldier Dogs for Independence, and they take rescue dogs out of shelters and they train them with the veterans to be service animals for them, and they create this bond. It's been an unbelievably successful model, and the most heartfelt thing I can say is what an incredible picture of a dog and a vet saving each other, getting that rescue animal, and then having him learn with to be super attentive to the needs of that veteran with PTSD and so forth. And so I think of that. I think of that veteran I started with on TV yesterday, speaking about his goals and how that changes, and how stupidly petty some of these extrinsic goals we have can seem when we see the struggles that other people are going through. And I think that's one of the big takeaways is no matter how upset getting your boat rocked a little bit might feel, there are people out there suffering with real shit. I mean, stuff that you might never ever have to go through. And this is an uncanny picture of mortality to me, because for me to be limping around, my daughter, my wife, they're, oh, can I do anything for you, honey? And I'm kind of, Mr. Independent. I don't want that help. I want to be sliding myself through the house, carrying things, because I don't want to feel helpless. I don't want to feel less than independent. And yet there are all these people around us who have to learn to rely on other people. So keep that in mind as you're going through your life and maybe seeing some setbacks. But those setbacks are a lot easier to take. And even as you're trying to climb towards some external goals, those are easier to achieve if you feel that something is deeply internal. I was speaking to one of our life transformation clients about that. And he said even after losing just dozens and dozens of pounds, and he's on the downside down toward his goal, he said, I still feel like there's something else. And I said, well, that's because this goal, you're crushing the goal, but you've done this before. You've lost weight before, you've increased your health. So what's going to be different this time? We have to find a way to make sure that is very intrinsic, and you're doing this for different reasons, for yourself, for your health, for your family. And again, as cliche as some of that stuff might sound, you got to find what is inside of you and decide that that's enough, that this is why I'm doing it. And anything else just doesn't matter. Any setback, any deviations in your goals, that's going to be fine. So back to Soldier Dogs, though, I do have a little plea. I'm gonna use this as a way to announce that in just a couple weeks, I'll announce the date in type so you can see it. Soldier Dogs for Independence is doing their annual fundraiser. And we need people to contribute different things to a silent auction. They raise almost all of their budget for the entire year in this one event. And my wife and I and family have run their bake sale. So they do this great big auction, silent auction. It's at Window World, Joe Bush's Window World in Evansville. So it's going to be there, I believe it's April 21st or 22nd. It's whatever Saturday that is, something like 1 to 6, but again, I'll type that out. And first of all, I need some people to help me. My wife has another event, so I'm going to be there with 1 or 2 of my kids. I would love to have somebody, 1 or 2 people there. We need donations in terms of the silent auction. Any business owners who have something that you think would be of value to auction off, we'll take it. It'll be great. Again, it only takes $600 or so to take an entire vet and rescue dog through this program. And that's 6 months training, very intense. It's amazing to see what these dogs can do and the bond they create with those vets. But I also need some donations for the bake sale. So what we'd like to do is create dollar bags. So whether it's a couple cookies or a brownie or something like that, just whatever it is, put it in individual bags that you think would sell well for $1. You can bring those to us. I'll post that information as well, and that would be great because I really want to help these guys out. We want to play a bigger part every year. So hope that helps a little bit, guys. We'll get back to some more nutrition topics here, but it seemed pretty appropriate to talk about goal setting when mine are a little bit delayed this week. So hope that helps, guys, and I'll chat with you again another time very soon.